Okay, so this is a video of how to solder left-handed pots. Yes, there is such a thing. Technically, they're called reverse audio taper pots. But if you look at them online, they're referred as lefty pots. And if you're a lefty, you know that if you buy, like, let's say a Gibson, and you go to turn your volume down, you actually have to go up. And if the opposite, to turn your volume up, you actually have to go down. It doesn't feel natural. So you get reverse audio taper pots. The difference between reverse audio taper pots and regular pots is the carbon is printed backwards. So the taper is backwards. Okay, so if we refer to this wiring diagram right here, this is your typical pickup wiring diagram. Your volume pot gets from left to right, input, output, soldered to ground. On the lefty pot, it's the opposite. You go input, output, solder to ground. So it's a mirror image. Same thing with the tone. You go in from the volume pot, the center is the tone cap, and then the right one gets left alone. Lefty pot, you go in from the tone cap, from the volume cap on the right side, center is your capacitor, and then the left one gets left alone. So it's basically a mirror image, volume and tone. That's it. By the way, the switch gets wired exactly the same. Output jack gets wired exactly the same. So the only thing that changes is these outer lugs, how you solder them. That's it. That's all you need to know. So this video is just going to cover that for right now. I'm probably going to get into a little bit of soldering because I know people also want to know about that. Soldering can be pretty challenging, especially if you're starting out. What I would recommend is get yourself a set of helping hands, or in this case I have the Hot Holder Pro. This thing is great. It's got different slots. It's made for working on guitar pedals and amps and guitars themselves. So this thing is great. It's silicone. It holds. So now it frees your hands up to work. Okay, so now we know we gotta solder this ground lug right here. This is your volume. So what I do is I just fold this over to where it has enough resistance to where it touches the housing on the potentiometer. You can see it right there. Okay. What that also gives me the ability is to leave this eyelet completely clear to add all the grounds into that eyelet. And that makes it way easier to solder all your grounds. If you look at your guitars, and I have this one right here as an example, this is where people struggle. They're trying to put 3 or 4 wires in at the same time, and it's challenging to solder that. Well, if you do decide to solder to the back of the pot, I have this one here that I took off of guitar as an example. You could actually put your pot into your helping hands, or like this thing right here, and then you stick your wire in there, and it's actually going to hold it for you. See that? So now you got both hands free to solder that wire. You got your soldering pen on one hand, maybe a screwdriver or something, or your finger just holding this down just for a little bit more support, and you're good to go. But what I like doing is I prefer to solder directly into this eyelet on the potentiometer, and that makes it, oh, this thing fell over. That makes it way easier. And I'll show you how to do that right now. So, first step, let's fire up our soldering station. Let's clean up our tip because it's been on for a while. Okay, let's retin it. Get gobby with it. It's fine. And then just put it on both surfaces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Just like that. Step 1 in the books.